Biology learning. Hello friends, in this video we will be discussing about symplast and apoplast pathway in detail. So before going ahead into the details of these terms, you should know the basic meaning of these terms. So these terms, which is symplast and apoplast, refers to the mechanism of water absorption by the roots of the plant. So the water which is absorbed by the roots of the plant from the soil can be defined either through the symplast or apoplast pathway. Okay, so now let's have a cross section of a root in order to understand how water is absorbed. So the outermost cells are, as you know, called epidermis or epiblema in the case of roots, and these cells contain some of the projections in them, and these projections are called root hairs, and these are unicellular. And these projections contains the water absorption capability, and after that comes the cortex, and this whole layer is called cortex, and this is formed by parenchyma tissue. And as you know that parenchyma cells contains intercellular spaces between them. Okay, so as you can see, there are many of the intercellular spaces present in between them. And after that, endodermis is the layer which is found after the cortex, and this endodermis layer contains Casparian strip in them, and Casparian strip is formed by the suberin present in the cells of endodermis layer. So endodermis cells contains suberin in their cell wall. So this suberin together forms the Casparian strip, which is impermeable to water. So now if Casparian strips forms the impermeability for the water, then how the water is going to transport it into the xylem or phloem? So this will happen due to the presence of these passage cells where Casparian strip is absent. Okay, so now let's have a look at another layer, which is pericycle, and this layer is also formed of parenchyma tissues. And after that comes the vascular bundle, and vascular bundle, as you know, consists of xylem and phloem, and in the middle of the root there is a pith. So these terms are important in order to understand symplast and apoplast pathway. There is a lot more in the cross section of the root of dicot and monocot plants, but for now, in order to understand symplast and apoplast pathway, this much is sufficient for you to understand. Now let's have a look how the water is transported inside the vascular bundle of the root through apoplastic pathway. So apoplast pathway happens in such a manner that water will be absorbed by the root hairs of the cell of the roots because water potential outside the root, which is soil, is high, and water potential in the root hair is less. So water will be absorbed, and after that it will move through the cell walls of the cortex. It will move either through cell wall or either through the intercellular spaces present in between the cortical cells. So this is how water will move, and as soon as it will move through the endodermis layer, it will move through only passage cells, and it will have to adopt another pathway which is called symplast pathway. So in symplast pathway, it will not be able to move through the cell wall, it will be moving through the cytoplasm of the cell. So as you can see here that till now water was moving only through cell wall or the interstitial spaces, but now as you can see, water is moving through the cytoplasm because the Casparian strip will not allow the water to move through the cell wall, and it will only move through the passage cell. And after that, inside the pericycle, water can again adopt the apoplast pathway, and as there is no such restriction such as Casparian strip in the pericycle, and after that water will finally reach xylem for to be further transported inside the plant. So this is how apoplast pathways perform. But now let's have a look at symplast pathway. So what is going to happen in symplast pathway? In symplast pathway, again, water potential is high in the soil and less in the root hairs. So water will simply move inside the root hairs. But now the major question arises that how water will be able to move through these cells inside the cytoplasm. So how the water will be able to move inside them? How the potential difference of water is maintained? So this potential difference, say that this is cell number 1. Okay, so in this cell, chloride ion and potassium ions will be actively transported inside this cell through the neighboring cells. Okay, so inside the cells, chloride ions and potassium ions will be transported inside it in order to maintain the potential difference. So as the potential difference inside this cell will be lowered, the water will automatically move inside this cell. And there is a structure called plasmodesmata in the junction of each of these cortical cells. So here is plasmodesmata, and through plasmodesmata, after moving through the cytoplasm of this cell, water will move through again another cell's cytoplasm, and again this cell will also perform the same process. Chloride ion and potassium ions will be moving inside the cell in order to maintain the water potential difference, so that water will be able to move through the high water potential to less water potential. So again the same process will be performed in this cell also. Chloride ion and potassium ions will be pumped inside this cell also, and through plasmodesmata water will move inside the cytoplasm of this cell also, and ultimately through the passage cell water will move through the endodermis and through the pericycle, finally reaching to xylem. And this is how whole symplast pathways perform. So this is how apoplast and symplast pathways are performed. So if you have any confusion in understanding these pathways, you are free to ask in comment section. I will be answering your questions. So until next video, goodbye and have a nice day.